Have you ever been jolted awake in the middle of the night by a leg cramp so intense it felt like your muscle was rebelling against you? If so, you're not alone, especially if you're over 60. Up to 60% of older adults experience nocturnal leg cramps, often without warning and frequently with no clear cause. But here's the surprising part. Many of these cramps are not just a sign of aging. They are your nervous system calling for a better foundation of micronutrients. What's happening in your body when a cramp strikes is essentially a misfire. The nerves that control your muscles are overactive while the muscle itself lacks the fuel and minerals it needs to respond smoothly. This isn't just about comfort. This matters for long-term mobility, independence, and even brain health. Why? Because your legs aren't just limbs. They're powerful engines of circulation, metabolic health, and movement. When your legs weaken, the rest of the system often follows. And here's what neuroscience reveals. Movement and muscular health are deeply connected to cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and overall vitality. A 2020 study from King's College London found that leg strength is one of the strongest predictors of healthy brain aging. In short, stronger legs support a sharper mind. But to build and maintain that strength, especially as we age, the body requires more than protein and squats. It requires very specific vitamins and minerals that regulate nerve impulses, muscle contraction, inflammation, and even mitochondrial energy production. Most people are missing at least 2 of them. In today's breakdown, we're going to explore 7 of the most science-backed vitamins that can dramatically improve leg strength and reduce the frequency and severity of cramps, especially for seniors. These nutrients don't just work in isolation. They influence how your brain talks to your muscles, how your body repairs after movement, and how resilient you feel day to day. We'll explore what each nutrient does, how deficiency shows up, and most importantly, how to fix it with simple, evidence-based tools. Let's dive into the top 7 vitamins to protect and power your legs. From the inside out. 1. Magnesium. Let's start with one of the most underappreciated keys to leg strength and cramp prevention, magnesium. If your legs ever feel twitchy, heavy, or prone to cramping, especially at night, chances are magnesium is involved. Here's what the research shows. Magnesium is an essential mineral that plays a central role in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body. But the reason it matters so much for your legs is that it's directly involved in nerve transmission and muscle relaxation. Think of magnesium as the off switch for muscular contractions. Without enough of it, your muscles literally can't relax, which is often what causes those sudden painful spasms. A 2012 study published in Magnesium Research found that older adults with low magnesium levels had significantly higher rates of nocturnal leg cramps, muscle stiffness, and fatigue. And here's something even more striking. More than 50% of people over 60 are estimated to be magnesium deficient, not because they're not trying to eat well, but because aging decreases absorption and increases losses through the kidneys. So how does this show up in real life? Have you ever had a cramp just as you're falling asleep? Or a muscle that pulses involuntarily after exercise? That's often a signal of neuromuscular instability, meaning your nerves are overfiring and your muscles aren't getting the signal to calm down. Magnesium helps stabilize that signal. It's like the brakes on a car. Without it, you're accelerating without control. And here's what's happening in your brain. Magnesium also binds to GABA receptors. These are your brain's calm down receptors. So a magnesium deficiency doesn't just cause muscle problems. It also increases anxiety, disrupts sleep, and elevates perceived pain. This is why people with restless legs at night often also struggle with insomnia or light, non-restorative sleep. A simple tool to apply is this. Consider magnesium glycinate or magnesium citrate supplementation, 2 highly bioavailable forms that are gentle on the gut. Most studies suggest that 200-400 milligrams per day is effective for reducing cramps, improving sleep, and calming the nervous system. You can also increase magnesium naturally through food. Spinach, pumpkin seeds, almonds, and dark chocolate are excellent sources. But be aware, even with a good diet, age changes in absorption mean many seniors still benefit from supplementation. One practical protocol that works well, take your magnesium supplement in the evening, about 60 to 90 minutes before bed. This helps support GABA activity in the brain, improves sleep quality, and reduces overnight leg cramping, all while helping your muscles recover from the micro damage of daily movement. A quick note here, if you're on medications like diuretics or proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, your magnesium levels might be lower than average because those drugs increase magnesium excretion. It's worth discussing with your doctor or running a red blood cell magnesium test, which gives a more accurate view than standard blood serum levels. Let me leave you with a question. What would your day feel like if your legs didn't ache, your sleep was deeper, and your energy more stable just from adding one missing mineral? That's the power of magnesium. It's a small hinge that moves a very big door, one that opens up better strength, smoother movement, and a more resilient nervous system. 2, vitamin D. If magnesium is the brake pedal for your muscles, vitamin D is the ignition system. Without it, your legs might still move, but they move with less coordination, less power, and higher risk of failure. Here's what the research shows. Vitamin D doesn't just support bone health, it's a critical hormone-like nutrient that affects muscle contraction, balance, inflammation, and even reaction time. A landmark study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that adults over 60 with low vitamin D levels were nearly twice as likely to experience muscle weakness and nearly 3 times as likely to suffer falls. Why does this happen? Vitamin D regulates calcium absorption, which is essential for muscle contraction. But it also influences the way your muscles grow and repair. Muscles contain vitamin D receptors, especially the type 2 fast twitch fibers, responsible for strength and quick reactions. When you're deficient in vitamin D, those receptors go quiet. The result? Slower reflexes, lower force output, and more frequent stumbles or fatigue. You might notice it in everyday ways. Do you feel unsteady getting up from a chair? Do your legs tire quickly on stairs or while walking uphill? Those may not just be aging, they may be signs that your neuromuscular system is underpowered due to a lack of vitamin D. And it goes deeper, vitamin D also modulates inflammation and immune function, which is why low levels are associated not just with weaker muscles, but with higher risk for chronic pain, fatigue syndromes, and even depression. There's an intimate connection here between your body's vitality and your brain's emotional resilience. So how do you optimize it? The first tool is simple. Get your blood levels tested. You're aiming for a 25 OHED level of at least 40 mg/ml, though many researchers argue that 50-60 mg/ml is optimal for muscle and immune function. If you're low, supplementing with 2,000-5,000 IU of vitamin D3 per day is typically safe and effective, especially in older adults who don't get daily sun exposure. It's best taken with your largest meal, since vitamin D is fat soluble and requires dietary fat for absorption. Another protocol, pair it with vitamin K2, especially MK7 form. This combination helps direct calcium to your bones and muscles and away from arteries and soft tissue. It's a synergistic relationship that improves strength while protecting cardiovascular health. And if you prefer a food-first approach, fatty fish like salmon and sardines are rich in vitamin D, along with fortified dairy and egg yolks. But again, for seniors, diet alone is rarely enough. The skin's ability to convert sunlight into vitamin D drops dramatically after age 60. Now, I want to pause for a second and say, if this kind of breakdown is helping you better understand how your body works and what it needs, consider subscribing. Every week, we unpack powerful tools like this, grounded in neuroscience, physiology, and behavioral science, so you can take better care of your brain and body. Back to vitamin D, one final note. Researchers have found that seniors who improved their vitamin D levels not only had better muscle strength, but also better cognitive performance. That's right. Your brain works better when your muscles do, and vitamin D is one of the key bridges between the two. So ask yourself, what would your daily life look like if your legs moved with more confidence, your balance was stronger, and your energy more stable just by correcting a simple deficiency? This is the hidden power of vitamin D, not a trendy wellness idea, but a foundational nutrient that keeps you grounded, upright, and moving forward. 3, potassium. Let's shift our focus to a mineral that often gets oversimplified. Potassium. You've probably heard that bananas are high in potassium and that it helps prevent cramps. But the real story is far more interesting and more important, especially for leg strength, endurance, and nerve muscle communication. Here's what the research shows. Potassium is one of the most vital electrolytes in your body. It's responsible for maintaining the electrical gradients across your cell membranes, the tiny voltage differences that allow nerves to fire and muscles to contract. Without enough potassium, your muscles become sluggish, your nerves misfire, and fatigue sets in faster. In a sense, potassium is the battery fluid for your neuromuscular system. It doesn't give you energy directly, but without it, your system can't conduct energy at all. A large review published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that inadequate potassium intake is strongly linked to muscle weakness, cramping, and even high blood pressure, particularly in adults over 50. Why? Because potassium helps relax blood vessels and support smooth muscle tone, including the vascular muscles that deliver oxygen and nutrients to your legs. Here's something you might have noticed. Your legs ever feel heavy during long walks or after standing for a while? That dead leg feeling could be due to suboptimal blood flow and impaired cellular hydration, both of which potassium regulates. But here's where it gets more interesting. Potassium doesn't work in isolation. It's in constant conversation with sodium, the mineral that tends to dominate Western diets. When sodium is too high and potassium too low, which is true for the majority of Americans, the resulting imbalance can lead to higher blood pressure, fluid retention, and increased muscular fatigue. The brain plays a central role in this. Your hypothalamus, which regulates fluid balance and blood pressure, becomes overstimulated when potassium is low, triggering stress hormones like aldosterone that actually pull potassium out of cells. This creates a vicious cycle of tension, fatigue, and cramping. So how do you fix it? A practical protocol is this. Aim for 3,500 to 4,700 milligrams of potassium per day from whole foods. Unlike sodium, potassium needs to be replenished consistently, especially after sweating, exercise, or during hot weather. Great potassium-rich foods include avocados, more potassium than bananas, sweet potatoes, spinach, beans, and lentils, coconut water, a natural electrolyte drink, salmon and other fatty fish. And yes, bananas are still a good source, but they're just one piece of a broader toolkit. A simple behavioral tool, front load your potassium early in the day, adding potassium-rich foods to breakfast, like a smoothie with spinach and avocado, or a side of black beans with eggs, can stabilize blood pressure, improve hydration, and enhance muscular function throughout the day. Now, there's a word of caution here. If you have kidney disease or are on certain medications like ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics, you'll want to check with your healthcare provider before increasing potassium, as too much can become harmful in those contexts. But for most people, especially seniors, the risk is not too much potassium, it's not enough. And the consequences show up subtly. More cramping, more fatigue, and slower recovery after movement. So here's a reflection. What if improving your leg strength didn't mean doing more, but simply replenishing what your muscles are silently asking for? That's what potassium offers. It's not flashy, but it's fundamental. And when you get it right, you feel the shift. More ease in movement, more endurance in your walk, and more stability in your body. 4, vitamin B12. Of all the vitamins we've discussed so far, vitamin B12 may be the most deceptive. Why? Because you can feel fine for a while, even as your levels decline. But over time, a deficiency in B12 quietly unravels the integrity of your nervous system. And the first signs often show up in your legs. Here's what the research shows. B12 is essential for the maintenance of the myelin sheath, the protective coating around your nerves. Without it, nerve conduction slows down, misfires, or gets interrupted altogether. The result? Weakness, tingling, numbness, balance issues, and eventually even muscle wasting. A major study published in Neurology found that older adults with low B12 levels were more than twice as likely to suffer from gait disturbances, meaning difficulty walking, poor balance, and instability on stairs. And here's the kicker. Many of them didn't have clinical deficiency. They were just low normal, a range still considered acceptable on standard labs, but functionally too low for optimal neuromuscular performance. So how does this play out in daily life? Have you ever felt your foot drag slightly as you walk, or that your legs feel unreliable on uneven ground? That may not be weakness, it may be nerve signal delay. B12 is what keeps those signals fast, smooth, and reliable. Without it, even a strong muscle can feel disconnected or unstable. And there's a deeper dimension. B12 also plays a critical role in red blood cell formation and oxygen transport. So when your B12 is low, your cells aren't just under-signaled, they're under-oxygenated. That's a double hit, nerve dysfunction and muscle fatigue. And what's happening in your brain when this occurs is also important. Low B12 affects the central nervous system, especially in areas like the cerebellum and spinal cord, both of which are crucial for balance and coordination. This is why undiagnosed B12 deficiency is sometimes mistaken for early-stage Parkinson's or dementia in seniors. But here's the empowering part. It's highly reversible when caught early. A simple behavioral tool is this. Check your B12 levels annually, especially if you're over 50. Follow a plant-based diet, or take medications like metformin or proton pump inhibitors, which interfere with B12 absorption. If your levels are below 500 pg/ml, even if they're technically normal, consider supplementation. For most people, 1,000 mcmills of methylcobalamin, a bioactive form of B12, daily or a few times a week is sufficient to replenish stores. And if you've been deficient for a while, your doctor may recommend injections for faster restoration. You can also support B12 through food, but here's where it gets tricky. B12 is found only in animal products, meats, eggs, dairy, and fish. If you're vegetarian or vegan, supplementation isn't optional, it's essential, another practical protocol. Combine B12 with folate and B6, often found together in neurosupport complexes. This trio works synergistically to lower homocysteine, a compound linked to nerve damage, inflammation, and even cardiovascular disease. Let me ask you this. How many of your leg symptoms, that heaviness, that instability, that tingling, might be a missing signal, not a muscular flaw? That's the paradigm shift B12 offers. You're not broken. Your nervous system may just be undernourished. If this insight is helpful, take a second to like the video and subscribe. We're building a community of people who want to understand the science of strength, not just from the neck down, but from the inside out. There's more empowering content just like this every week. Because at the end of the day, the more clearly your brain can communicate with your body, the stronger, steadier, and more energized you feel. Calcium. When you think of calcium, you probably think of bones. And that's fair. About 99% of the calcium in your body is stored in your skeleton. But the remaining 1%, that tiny fraction, is absolutely critical for one of your body's most essential functions, muscle contraction. Here's what the research shows. Calcium is the signal that tells your muscles to move. When a nerve fires, it sends an electrical impulse that triggers calcium to flood into your muscle cells. This calcium then binds to proteins like troponin and actin, which allows the muscle fibers to slide and contract. No calcium, no movement. And when levels drop too low, especially in older adults, the results can be subtle but significant. Slower muscle response, cramping, twitching, and weakness. But there's more to the story. Calcium is also critical for neuromuscular timing. Think of it like a conductor in an orchestra, coordinating the precise rhythm between your brain's signals and your body's response. When that timing gets fuzzy, movements become clumsy, delayed, or inefficient. Have you ever stood up too quickly and felt your legs hesitate, or noticed your muscles tremble during a movement that used to feel easy? That could be your nervous system struggling to deliver precise calcium-mediated commands. Now here's the paradox. While calcium is essential, too much, especially from supplements, can create problems too. Excessive calcium intake, particularly without balance from magnesium or vitamin K2, has been linked to vascular calcification, kidney stones, and even impaired muscle function. It's not about flooding the system, It's about creating balance. A major study from the BMJ found that calcium supplements, when taken alone, were not effective in preventing fractures. And in some cases, they increase the risk of cardiovascular events. That's why today's recommendations have shifted away from high-dose calcium pills and toward diet-first strategies and nutrient synergy. So what's the optimal protocol? For most adults, the target is 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day. But the key is this: get it from whole foods whenever possible. Why? Because in food, calcium comes packaged with cofactors like magnesium, phosphorus, and protein that enhance absorption and integration into bone and muscle tissue. Top calcium-rich foods include sardines, plain Greek yogurt, chia seed tofu, calcium set, dark leafy greens like kale and bok choy, but not spinach, which contains oxalates that block absorption. And here's a practical behavioral tool. Distribute your calcium intake across the day. Your body can only absorb about 500 milligrams at a time, so it's more effective to get moderate amounts with each meal rather than a large single dose. If you're supplementing, perhaps due to lactose intolerance, low appetite, or absorption issues, choose calcium citrate over carbonate. It's better absorbed, especially in older adults or those with lower stomach acid. And remember, calcium doesn't work alone. It depends on vitamin D for absorption, vitamin K2 to direct calcium to the right places. Think of these nutrients as a team, not solo players. Optimizing one without the others can lead to imbalance, and your muscles will feel the effects. So let's zoom out. Why does this matter? Because strong legs aren't just about resistance training or protein. They're about the quality of your nerve-muscle communication, the timing of your movements, and the biochemical readiness of your tissues to respond. Calcium is the trigger in that system. It tells your body, now move. Without enough of it, or without the right balance, that signal gets delayed, garbled, or weak. But when you get it right, you move with greater control, faster response, and smoother coordination. And that's what keeps you safe, stable, and strong, not just in the gym, but in the everyday moments that really matter. 6, omega-3s. Let's talk about a nutrient that's often associated with brain health and cardiovascular support, but is just as essential for the health and performance of your legs: omega-3 fatty acids. What's fascinating is how central omega-3s are to both inflammation control and nerve regeneration, two key processes that directly impact how your legs feel, function, and recover as you age. Here's what the research shows. Omega-3s, particularly EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, play a crucial role in reducing chronic low-grade inflammation that builds up in joints, blood vessels, and muscle tissue over time. A study published in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition found that higher omega-3 intake is associated with improved muscle function and slower loss of strength in older adults. Another study from Clinical Science showed that omega-3 supplementation increased muscle protein synthesis in older individuals, even when no change in exercise or diet occurred. What does that mean for you? It means that omega-3s may help preserve and protect leg strength, even in the face of aging and inactivity. But the benefits go deeper, right into your nervous system. DHA is a major structural component of your brain and peripheral and helps maintain the fluidity of nerve cell membranes, which is essential for fast, accurate communication between your brain and body. If you've ever felt like your legs are slow to respond or that recovery from exertion takes longer than it used to, consider this. You may not be lacking in motivation, you may be lacking in neural efficiency. Omega-3s help repair and maintain those neural pathways, making sure the electrical signals from your brain to your legs are strong, fast, and consistent. Now let's look at inflammation, the silent saboteur of leg performance. When joints and muscles are chronically inflamed, your movement becomes restricted. You may feel stiff in the morning, sore after light activity, or prone to swelling after a simple walk. Omega-3s are one of the few nutrients that directly modulate this inflammatory response at the genetic level, turning off the overactive immune signals that keep your tissues in a state of low-level damage. And unlike over-the-counter anti-inflammatories, omega-3s don't suppress healing, they promote it. They help your body resolve inflammation intelligently without shutting down the repair process. Here's a practical tool. Aim for at least 1,000, 2,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA per day, ideally from cold water fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, or anchovies. If you're not regularly eating fish, at least 2 to 3 servings per week, consider a high-quality fish oil or algal oil supplement. Make sure the label specifies the actual EPA and DHA content, not just 1,000 EPAs of fish oil, which can be misleading. Another tip, take omega-3s with a meal that contains fat. These are fat-soluble nutrients, meaning they're absorbed far more efficiently when consumed with other dietary fats. And if you want to upgrade your anti-inflammatory protocol, consider pairing omega-3s with curcumin from turmeric magnesium, vitamin D. Together, these nutrients work in harmony to reduce systemic inflammation and support muscle and nerve function, especially in the lower body. Let me ask you this. What if your legs didn't have to feel sore, stiff, or tired every time you moved? What if recovery could be faster and movement more fluid? That's the promise of omega-3s. They're not a quick fix, but they build a foundation, a more resilient, better recovered, better connected body from the inside out. And if this kind of science-backed, body-empowering content resonates with you, take a second to subscribe. This channel is all about giving you the tools to reclaim strength with intelligence, not guesswork. Because when your body feels clear, strong, and responsive, every step forward gets easier. 7. Magnesium. When people experience leg cramps, muscle tightness, or nighttime twitching, magnesium is often the first thing they hear about, and for good reason. But what's less known is why magnesium works and how it goes far beyond just cramp prevention. Let's break it down. Magnesium is required for over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, and a huge number of those are directly involved in muscle relaxation, nerve signaling, and energy production. It acts as a biological brake pedal, calming overexcited nerves and helping your muscles release after a contraction. Here's what the research shows. A deficiency in magnesium leads to increased excitability of nerve endings and muscle fibers. That's a fancy way of saying your muscles get stuck in on mode, cramping, spasms, restlessness. These are classic signs that your neuromuscular system isn't getting the message to let go. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that nearly 50% of older adults consume less than the recommended daily intake of magnesium, often due to diet patterns, certain medications like diuretics, or decreased absorption with age. And while this might not create a full-blown deficiency, even a marginal shortfall can impair muscular recovery and increase your risk for cramping, tension, or fatigue, especially in the legs. Now, let's zoom in on something fascinating. Magnesium is a cofactor for ATP production. ATP is your body's basic unit of cellular energy. Without enough magnesium, your cells literally can't produce energy efficiently. This is especially critical in fast-twitch muscle fibers, which your legs rely on for power, balance, and responsiveness. Have you ever noticed your legs feel more twitchy, crampy, or antsy at night, especially after a stressful day? That's no coincidence. Stress burns through magnesium like fire through kindling. The more cortisol your body produces, the more magnesium it uses up. And when stress is high and magnesium is low, your body enters a feedback loop of muscular tension and poor sleep, both of which reduce your ability to recover and stay strong. So here's a practical tool. Aim for 400 to 500 milligrams of magnesium daily, ideally from a combination of food and supplementation. Food sources include pumpkin seeds, almonds, spinach, black beans, dark chocolate, yes, really, 70% cocoa or higher. But here's the caveat, even with a healthy diet, it can be hard to reach optimal levels, especially if you're active or over 50. That's where supplementation becomes powerful. For muscle and nerve support, look for magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate. Both are highly bioavailable and gentle on the stomach. If your primary concern is sleep or nighttime cramps, magnesium threonate, which crosses the blood-brain barrier, can also be helpful. A simple evening protocol. Take 200, 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate about 90 minutes before bed. Combine it with a wind-down ritual like stretching, deep breathing, or reading, and you'll likely notice improved sleep quality, reduced muscle tension, and even fewer middle-of-the-night cramps. Let me ask you, what if your legs didn't just feel strong during the day, but deeply relaxed and restored at night. That's the full circle value of magnesium. It supports not only your movement, but your recovery. And recovery is where real strength is built. One final note, magnesium also plays a role in mood regulation and resilience. It supports GABA, the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. So when you optimize magnesium, you're not just preventing cramps, you're cultivating a calmer, more focused mind. The kind that helps you stick to routines, push through plateaus, and stay consistent. Because in the end, leg strength isn't just physical, it's neurological, emotional, and biochemical. Let's take a moment to zoom out. When we think about building strength, especially in our legs, it's easy to focus solely on resistance training, cardio, or flexibility. And while those are undeniably important, what you've seen in this episode is that true muscular strength starts at the cellular level. It starts with your biochemistry, your nervous system, and the nutrient signals that prepare your muscles to fire, relax, repair, and grow. Here's what the research and neuroscience have made clear. Vitamin D acts like a hormonal switchboard, activating genes involved in muscle growth, immunity, and coordination. Vitamin B12 keeps your nerves sharp and your brain-to-muscle messages fast and precise. Potassium balances the electrical charges that allow muscles to contract and prevents cramps by stabilizing neuromuscular firing. Vitamin E protects your muscle membranes from oxidative stress and enhances oxygen delivery, helping you perform longer with less fatigue. Calcium is the literal trigger that tells your muscles to move. Without it, strength isn't just reduced, it's disconnected. Omega-3s reduce inflammation, support nerve regeneration, and enhance muscle recovery, especially in aging legs. Magnesium ensures your muscles can relax, your energy stays high, and your nervous system remains calm and resilient. Each of these nutrients does something unique, but together they create a powerful network of support for your legs and your life. And here's the key insight. Strength is not just a product of training, it's a byproduct of recovery, regulation, and readiness. And the nutrients we've discussed today are foundational to all three. So what do you do with this information? You turn it into action, but not with overwhelm, with intention. Here's a challenge for today. Pick one nutrient you're likely deficient in. Maybe it's vitamin D if you don't get much sun, or magnesium if you often feel tense or struggle with sleep. Start there. Add one food, one habit, or one supplement, and make it consistent for the next 7 days. Notice how your legs feel, track your energy, your sleep, your balance. This is how change happens, not through extremes, but through accumulation. Because ultimately, this isn't about just avoiding cramps or staying out of a wheelchair. It's about owning your physical independence. It's about moving through the world with strength, confidence, and agility, no matter your age. It's about being able to walk unassisted, climb stairs with ease, play with your grandkids, or simply stand tall and grounded in your own body. Leg strength is a signal of vitality, resilience, and freedom. And the nutrients we covered today are tools to help you maintain that signal for years to come. If this episode gave you something useful, if it sparked insight or helped you connect dots you hadn't before, consider liking this video. It tells the algorithm that this kind of grounded, science-based content matters. Drop a comment. What's one vitamin or habit you're going to prioritize starting today? And if you haven't already, subscribe, because we're building a community of people who want to optimize their minds and bodies with science, wisdom, and intention. Thank you for being here, for investing in your strength, your health, and your future. Stay curious, stay grounded, and keep moving forward.